Hello viewers, welcome to this very first tutorial of C programming. Today we are going to see and we are going to elaborate the introduction on C programming. Here I will not talk much more on C programming, but I will be talking about programming languages in general. Here we go. The first thing to be seen or to be done is the scope of the tutorial. The very first thing that we need to look at is what is a computer, the meaning of a computer. Secondly, we'll be talking about what is the meaning of a computer language. Thirdly, we'll be talking about why do we need computer language. Next, we'll be talking about then what is C programming language and why do we need to take C. We'll be talking about what are the types of applications that we can develop in any language. And here then what is the structure of a C program. Next we'll be talking or we'll be having a practical session for what is or how can I write a C program which is having all the structures needed in a C program. So we will also be talking about the tokens and identifiers together with the keywords. Here the three last subjects will be also introducing us to the very second tutorial of this video, whereby I will need first of all to review and also to resume and also to talk about these three in my second tutorial. Welcome again. So when we say a computer, we understand nothing other than an electronic device. What do I mean here? I can use these ones. When you say a computer, before you go to here, a computer is nothing other than an electronic device. The computer is nothing other than an electronic device. But this electronic device, it is having the abilities. It is able or capable of receiving input. It can process those inputs. Then it can output and store, which means the output and store is the result of processing the data. So here then we need, if we want to expect any output, we need to give an input to the computer, and the computer is having this ability to process those inputs in order to give you the output. Then, as you understand, who is giving the input to the computer? He's the human being, which means the human being or the user is needed to be present in order to populate, in order to provide the input to the computer. Then, as we know, for a good communication, there should be a language to use. So this is why then we are going to see what is a language. Usually, a language is nothing other than a method of communication. It can either be spoken, written, consisting of the use of words in a structured and conventional way, which means we need to have some words to use. If, for example, in English, we know that to say good morning, we mean saluting someone. But let's say I want to inverse the word morning, then I say, for example, nimog, something like that. So because there's no convention for this, it will not be understood. So this is why then the language that human beings are using and the language that the computer is using is very different. This is why then here we need a computer language. Then this computer language or this programming language, it is a vocabulary and set of programmatical rules for instructing a computer or computing devices to perform specific tasks, which means this is a way that has been defined before and it is used in order to instruct to the computer what to be done. Here we can have many different types of programming languages, and here you can even give some examples. So when you say then a computer language, it is nothing other than a way of communicating with a computer. It is the language that the computer can understand, which is also required for us in order to talk with the computer or to communicate with the computer. So we need that computer language in order to communicate with the computer. And we can ask ourselves, why not English? So usually the computer has its own language and human beings have their own language. So this is why then we need like a translator of something in which we need to pass our information, our instruction through in order the computer to understand. So here then, these programming languages, the generations, if we talk about the generations of computer programmings or the programming languages, we can say that the first generation, it was what? It was this binary language. So the first one was binary language, and this binary language, it was the combination of ones and zeros. So this was very difficult to understand and even to program in. So this is here we are talking about the generations. So here it was very difficult to understand and even to write. So the new language that has been involved, it was the other one of assembly language. So the assembly language, then it has been there, and the difference between binary language and the assembly language is that in assembly language they introduced something which is mnemonic symbols. An example of these mnemonic symbols we can have like load. So in assembly language, when we say load, the system will understand what it means with load. So here, after this, here also it was very difficult. Why? Because here we need to develop for specific architectures. Specific what? Here it means if you are developing like a software or a system for example HP, this is an example, it cannot run on Dell, which means we need to develop the systems for specific architectures, and it was a constraint. So here then, and also the code was very difficult to be understood by human beings compared to high level languages. In HLS, it is where we are having our programming languages like C, like Java, like Python, all of these ones. Usually, the new generation of the programming language, it is this one of the extended high level languages where we are having those new languages. So here I am not going to talk about this. I'm only going to stop by this HLL so that we will be able to understand then where our C programming language is located. So after these generations, then we need then to know, okay, what is HLL means? High level language. So assume that someone have wrote like this set of codes. It means even if I'm not a programmer, I will understand that here A is equal to 10, B is equal to 20, C is equal to 30. Why? Because C is equal to 10 plus 20. If I print C here, I cannot understand, but here you can understand that, okay, print, or something like displaying C. So you'll understand that someone who is not an IT, with an IT background, that person will also understand. So which means this programming language is mostly understandable by human beings, but not the computer. This is why then, for this to be understood by the computer, we need a translator. And here in the translators, it is where we can have a compiler and also the interpreter. So when we say the compiler is nothing other than, so from here, for these things to be understood by the system or by the computer, we need something like a translator. When you say translator, then there's two things that I want you to have like this logic on the compiler and also the interpreter. So when we say a compiler, what is a compiler? The compiler usually uses a stack to store. It uses a stack to store all the errors and throw them at once. And return them at once. So it means before the compiler breaks, it needs to first visit each and every line of code from your program. But then this one, once an error is found, the interpreter returns, all breaks, all stops. You understand? So which means then here, this translated, then it's up to us to choose which one to use. But in C, we are using C compilers, like those compilers that are found in code block, that are found in dev, that are found in many other environment or development environment. IDEs, integrated development environment. So which means then it's up to you to choose which application or which IDE are you going to use according to the compiler that you want to have. Okay, something like that. So when we say then these compilers, usually C, it is having a compiler whereby we can have this GCC compiler or min GW, and they can be found on these links. If you click on the link, you'll be able to find like the description of all those compilers. Okay, after this then we have seen what is a computer programming, or no, computer meaning, computer language, the needs of computer language. We have seen that it is used in order to communicate or to instruct the computer on what to do. And we have seen that C programming language is one of the programming languages found in high level languages, and it is useful in developing many things, and many things that we are using, even the compiler is just developed in C or something like that. So here then we are going to see what are the types of applications. So C can help us to develop some applications, but then here we need to first elaborate what are the types of applications. Applications that we can have here, so usually each and every application, for you to communicate with the server or to retrieve some databases from the DBMS, so we need an interface whereby the user needs to instruct the computer on what to do. It is your desktop that you are using in order to type or to do what you want. So, and here this interaction, it can be done using either a standalone application, what many people are calling desktop application, and others are calling this Windows application. Others are calling this system-based application. So these ones, they should be a compatibility with the operating system. So whenever you have seen, I am sure that some of you have seen something like .exe, or which means executable file. This was the Windows standalone desktop or system-based application for Windows. We know Windows is an operating system, and the GMG, it was for Mac, and RPM and TAL, it's for Linux. This is for standalone application. What do we mean by standalone application? Standalone applications are those applications that you need to install before using them. But web-based application, those are applications that are accessible via what? Via the link. That means you need a link, or what we are calling universal source locator, then in order for you to access to this system or to this application. Here we're done. So the program structure then, each and every C program should be having or should have at least 4 parts. These 4 parts, all of this you can read as long as I have talked about this, the example of where C is used and why do we need to use C. It is easy to learn, structured language, it is efficient, and it produces efficient applications or program, and also it handles low level activities, and also it can be compiled on a variety of computer platforms. Okay, the structure then here, we are need to have like these things. Usually statements and expressions and comments, they are ones. Like we need to have like variables, functions, and preprocessors. So when you say what do we mean by a preprocessor, using an example, I'm going to explain this. Like here, this is a program which can display for us hello world. So in C, the first thing that we need to include is the preprocessor. What do we mean by a preprocessor? When you say preprocessor, you understand something which is a prefix called pre, which means before. So it is something, or it is to tell to the system what to include before the compiler starts, which means it is pre-processing or pre-compiling. Before compiling, know that in the things that we will compile, I have used some functions from this library. Like here, it is standard input output. It's where we have printf, we have scanf, and so on and so forth. Usually, we'll be having another chapter that will be talking about functions, libraries, and classes and storages. It is where we'll be elaborating much more on these headers, and we'll be seeing what are the very useful headers that we can have. So here then, when you have include with this hashtag, you are including standard input output dot header, which means the system will understand that inside here I will be using some functions from stdio. The second thing is a function. Here the function name is called main and the return type is integer. So here the function is nothing other than a set of reusable codes. And here we can differentiate or even categorize our functions into two. The first one is calling function, other one is user defined or the calling functions. There should be in all our C programs, we need to have the calling function and calling function if we want so. But then if you have only one, the calling function, it will work. But if you are only having the calling function, it will not work. Why? Because there should be always a master of ceremony in each and every ceremony. Otherwise, the ceremony will only be full of disturbance. So when we say int main, it means this function of mine, it's having no parameter. Parameter is something, okay, if you are going to fetch water, what are you going to use in order to fetch water? This is what we call parameters. So, but then here there's return type. What are you going to return? I am going to return my water, which means if your mom, if someone sent you somewhere, and then say, okay, please, or your boss tells you, go and bring for me water. It means he is expecting for you to return water or even just to bring water. If he tells you go and bring water and you are bringing, for example, potatoes, it will not be accepted. So which means if I am saying my function will return integer, I should have integer returned. I think we are together. So if we are returning character, here the character should be returned. If we are returning here a pointer, here a pointer should be returned. So which means this one, it is not obligatory that we need to return 0 just because we can have another return. So here it is the function. The function will always be having an opening and a closing, which means the statement inside here, all of these, they are related to this function. So here we are having then the comments. So the comments, usually we can have one line comment, which is like this one, or we can have multi-line comments. So when we say we can have multi-lines comments, those are the comments that we can put or we can write when we are having many lines that we need to comment. Like here we're having how many lines? 2 lines. Here we are having one line only. This is why I have used this sign. If you want to have one line comment, use double slashes, and if you want to have multi-line comments, use slash star, and then before closing you close that slash. So these are the comments. Then here we are having what we call a statement. This statement, it is an instruction that you are giving to the computer to be done. So then if it is this the instruction that you are giving to your computer to be done, this statement should always be ended by a semicolon. In the next video, I will be talking about what is printf and scanf and how do they differ. But for now, Let us just have a practical problem to show and to illustrate how is the program C program structured. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have my first, let me call first program in C. So, okay, the first thing that we need to know, we need to include the preprocessor. What do we mean here? Here, I will be printing out and I will be scanning, I will be receiving or retrieving or even getting the input from the user. So the first thing that I need then it is to include, I need to include, sorry, I need to include Studio because my first view it is that we need printf and scanf, right? But if I am while I'm recording or while I'm doing this, if I am having any other function that I need to use, I need to come back and then I include that library too. So here I need to have my function, and my function is nothing other than this function main. And the function main, it is a function that will be calling other functions, or a function whereby I need to write my statements. As it is integer, I need to return something. So here I can return something, but this thing to be returned, it should be of type integer. If I am having, for example, void main, I will need to remove this return because void means return nothing. In the Bible, they says the world or the earth was void, which means there was no form, which means void means nothing. So it means, but then if you include void, don't return anything. But then it says that all the functions should return something. Otherwise, you are not declaring or defining a function, but you are defining a procedure. You'll be seeing this in the next or in other researches that you'll be doing. So int main. So then here, because it is int main, I need to return something. Are we together? This thing it can be okay. Let me say, for example, if I return 5, what will be done? Usually we will be trying all of this, but then it will work just because what we are returning, but that 5 that we are returning, it will be returned. For example, if it is like this, and then I run, to run, we know that we can come here on build, and then you click on build and run. So you can see that here it is telling me, okay, the execution time, this one, this is the execution time. Then here the returned number is what? Is 0. So if I say, for example, let me write 5, then I come here and I run. So you can see that, okay, it is returning 5, but then nothing else, which means there you need to return any number only. So then here, what do I need to do here? Remember that my function is to do what? It is like, okay, first C program. Let me say like this, first C program. So what do I need to do here? For example, I am just going to tell to my people, welcome to C. If I say welcome to C, this is a statement. And this statement, I am displaying these strings. So if it is a string, you need to include this string literals. This string, okay, the double quotes, to mean that this is a string to be returned. If you forget like this one, it will not work. And remember, it will also, when you click, it will also give you the red thing. So please, there's something that I want you to know. When I run like this, you can see here there is an error. And if you make like this to be up a bit, you can read. The errors are self-explanatory. Here, let me try to magnify so that you can be able to see. Here, when the system returns to this, it says expected semicolon before return, which means the system will be able here to tell you what you have forgotten, which means the return is here, then my before return is here. So if I run now, then my system will display welcome to C, but then return it will always be 0 because I'm returning something. Let me say, for example, here I am having void. Sometimes there are some compilers that cannot accept you to have something without a return, to have a function without a return. But here it will also just be given you this. Then if you don't include the return, so what then will be returned? Usually the system will be returning any ASCII value. The ASCII value can be in terms of numbers or even ASCII thing. So are we together? So our first program, we need to have the preprocessor, the functions, the statements, and also the closure of our program. So which this means we need, when I say return, it is to tell to the system, please halt, please stop, please don't do anything. So this is it then. So then when we are here, we need then to know, okay, for example, then I want, for example, to have like an identifier or a variable whereby I will store the name of someone. Then when I'm saying welcome, I will also include the name. For example, I am in need of name, and this name is, for example, to Eric. This is an example. So remember, what am I doing here? I am putting this semicolon to mean that it's a statement. Assume that you are going in a hotel. If you go to a hotel, you will tell them, I want a room, but that room will accommodate how many people? In programming, it is what we call data type. When I say int name, that means this name will be storing integers, and integers, it is like numbers. But do we need to include numbers in names? No. Then we need to have characters. So for example, then here I can say, okay, then here I want to display the name. Welcome. Let me say, for example, dear S. What do we mean by this percentage S? The percentage S means data type specifier. This data type specifier, it means something that will be passing in your printf function, which is found in Studio library. It will be of type string. String, it's also the same as character. So if it is like this, then if I run, then you will see that, okay, welcome dear Eric to C. Remember, this name should not start with a number. If you start with a number, it will always give you something like an error because it is a convention. So let me say, for example, it is N3. So this one, it will be allowed. The number can be inside the name of yours, that or the name that you want to hold. Again here, if you run, for example, like this program, it will also give you an error. Why? Here you are calling something which is not defined. You are going to a hotel and you are telling them, please give me a room, yet we didn't reserve the room, which means before using any variable, any identifier, you need to declare it. You need to reserve it from the system. And when you are going to reserve your your variable, make sure that you are not using the keyword. For example, if I am saying I am going to reserve a variable called int, this also, you can see that this is becoming blue, and it is dark blue, which means it is a reserved keyword. Usually also it will give you an error. So please make sure that the variable that you are declaring is black. In C it will be like that. So all you can even just, I will be giving you the list of keywords and the reserved keywords so that you cannot use them. So here it is this one. So I am done. So if you have any question, any comment, any problem, you can please still ask. So and if you like this video, you can also just ask for anything for me to work on. Remember to watch it very well and also to do some practices. Thank you very much. Ciao, ciao. See you in next.